Hi, and welcome to this week's Tentative tutorial. I am your artist and narrator, Sylvester Hansen, and I will be going through this spaceship design with you. So here we go. This is my thumbnail process. I went through this last week, so please check that video out. But in general, the process is basically just me closing my eyes, doing a random shape, and then seeing what comes out of it. Now, that's of course a very good way of ideating, but actually the video today is, I have nicknamed it the most tentative of the tutorials. I have done so because I struggled with this week's assignment, or this week's video, if you will. The problem was I was unable to create anything that I was particularly happy with. Last week, when I did the rather extensive thumbnail tutorial, I was very fond of the outcome that came out of that. I liked a lot of the shapes, I liked a lot of the process, and it was a great way of being really loose about what you were trying to do. And for the most part, I actually came up with some interesting shapes and ideas. This, of course, fed into this week. So a little bit about this week. What you see on the screen right now, I'm still doing the thumbnails by the way, but what you're seeing is not the first attempt at a video. I did actually spend about 6 hours actually trying to perfect one of the thumbnails from last week. It only made sense in my mind that if I'd made thumbnails last week, then I was going to perfect it this week and sort of do a bit of narration there. And that did not work out, as you might have guessed. And I think that leads into the theme for today, which is the most tentative of the tutorials. I am still a student in many ways. I have finished my education, as I mentioned in previous videos, but I'm still learning to draw. And one of the reasons I find it important to share this process is simply because I want to be amazing. And I think this is something that I'm hoping you'll take away from a video like this one, is if you have aspirations, no matter what your aspirations are of, don't feel afraid to experiment with new things. And in a way, what I'm doing here, these tentative tutorials, are in a big way experimentation. And this actually is mirrored pretty well with what's happening right now. You can see here I'm drawing a lot of piping for this particular design. I had a lot of issues with this first design. And this is something that hopefully mirrors your experiences. I can say that doing the thumbnails was very, very easy, a fluid, creative wealth of ideas. And now that I'm trying to, as you can see, now that I'm trying to define it, make it better, make it more specific, I'm not doing super well. And you'll see for this particular design, this spaceship that I'm working on right now, it's a lot of me just trying a lot of things out, not really being sure where I want to go with it, not really being sure what direction I want to go with it. I think part of the reason for this was that I hadn't decided on a narrative yet. Full disclosure, what you see now being drawn actually took me, I don't know, 3 days of on and off again drawing. So this isn't like it might appear just one day of continuous artwork. There's probably around 7 to 10 hours worth of work here over the course of 3 days. So what you see now is really me just trying to hone in on the product that I'm creating. Meaning, is it a cargo ship? Is it a pedestrian vehicle? I mean, what exactly is it? I knew there was supposed to be a. I knew that I was trying to make a spaceship, but the narrative of what that spaceship might be. Case in point, does it hold cargo? Does it hold people? Is it manned? Is it unmanned? Is it a drone? I frankly had no idea what exactly I was doing, and it's much harder to achieve something if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, as I learned through this. So the first one here was really about me trying to figure out where am I going, what am I doing, and how am I going about achieving the goals of that. So what you'll end up seeing from this particular design is something a little bit more 50s inspired. I started out trying to make something that seemed very alien, very early on. Of course, this was in the thumbnail stage. And the more I got into defining, as you can see here, a lot of piping, but the more I got into defining the shapes that I was going to work with, the more it became evident that this was obviously crafted by men. And in that, I wanted to go a little bit more vintage with the feel of it. A little bit more Jetsons, that TV show, the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. So, of course, this is still a spaceship. It's still supposed to fly in zero gravity. One of the things that I'm doing here is actually I'm doing a logo for a pretend car company or spaceship company to place on the hood of this car to sort of give it that 50s feel, that like this is the make and model. There's also going to be an actual make and model written on it on the side. It was there. I don't know if you called that. So what you see is really just me trying to figure out where I'm going. So here you have me sketching up the interiors. Also not amazingly well executed, but that really ties into what I was saying earlier about not being afraid to put something out there. Not being afraid to try something new, and in my case that something new is the vulnerability of letting everybody see this process, because it is scattered and it is not great. Or, well, I think it isn't. It might be. So what you see here is actually me trying to redefine the shape. A second ago, I went on to the next drawing in my little repertoire there, and here I'm just trying to define the shape of this next vehicle. This one was obviously easier, and you'll see that it actually takes a little bit less time than the previous one, simply because I knew where I wanted to go with this one. I knew that we were doing manned vehicles, probably leisurely, not quite sure about that, but definitely something that was supposed to bring a person from point A to point B, and this would be a regular person, a human being, not an alien. So what you see here is me just trying to define some shapes in perspective and trying to figure out, so where does this go, where does that go, if it has a wing, how would that wing then be moved into perspective. Something I'm actually not completely sure I got 100% right, but I got it right enough for communication. And that's something that, at least for this product, was important for me. It wasn't important that everything became completely 100% perfect. What was important was that people would understand what I was trying to bring across with these pieces. So what I'm hoping to what I'm hoping to give you as a takeaway from this video is really the sense that there isn't anything you could do that would ever be wrong. Um, and I'm hoping that this is one of those videos where I actually practice what I preach, because if if somebody who is my autistic superior sees this, they would probably have quite a few notes on what I'm doing. And by the way, if you have any notes, please put them in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. If in fact anybody's listening to this, which I hope you are. There you have again that little logo, that car company, or in this case, uh, what's it called, spaceship company. So what you can see here is, for this one, I was actually going a little bit more leisurely than the other one. The other one looks like it might have a practical application, like it could be a cargo truck, it could be something that had that very bulking sense to it, whereas this one was a little bit more light, had a lot of open space in the middle there. So what I was actually thinking with this particular design was to make a leisure product, something in which you might sit down, you might actually have a conversation with the passenger. So yeah, here you see me just a little bit of an art jump there, I'm sorry about that. But you see, I'm actually trying to define the interior of the of the ship, trying to make it seem a little bit more in tone with what one might actually use under those circumstances. The circumstance, of course, being this is a travel vehicle for, I don't know, a future family perhaps, so that they could maybe swivel the chair both to look at a passenger across the table, which is coming up in a second. There it is. Or they might swivel and look out, look ahead, look at whatever is happening right now. So this is the final design, let's call it the pod. The pod was when I started to give up. I'm not proud of this, frankly, I am not. But I had my 6 thumbnails, and my initial idea was that I was going to just create every one of those thumbnails, just make like a good broad selection of vehicles. And what I realized was that that was very, very, very enthusiastic of me. Each of these, as I said, probably took around 3 hours. And I do have that job, I do have work, I do have other responsibilities than making these videos, though I wish I didn't, because they're a lot of fun. So in order for me to be able to give you something this week and maintain those weekly deadlines, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to make one more because I was very fond of this design, and maybe I'll just leave it there. Maybe that's just it. So what you see here, the great thing about this design was it did not take as long as the other ones, which made me very happy. See, here I'm actually I don't know, reusing a lot of my designs from earlier. You'll see a lot of the piping making a return, a lot of the like what I'm working on for a second ago, which was the logo from the spaceship company. A lot of the interiors were reused. I will be honest and say this was probably the sloppiest of the 3. And if I were to, see, here I'm actually reconfiguring the 3 of them, just trying to figure out how do they look the best and how do I make this thing just work out in my favor. So what you see here is me just working on the hood, just working on the details. And I am fairly new to this process. I'm fairly new to creating these types of designs. So what I realized was that I work the best when I work from the outside and in, meaning create broad strokes first, and then try and see what the details of the design were. Um, I'm actually hoping that I might have some more polished designs for you later. I feel like this is just a step above a thumbnail. It's not terrible, it's not great either, but it is that just small step above a thumbnail so that you can read the design. This would be in a professional pipeline, this would probably be something you handed in before you hand in like a side view, a front view, or maybe even a 3D rendering. To be honest, I might even be more comfortable with a 3D rendering at certain points, especially if I were going to do this right now. Um, and I will say this, if you're more comfortable working in 3D, and I know a lot of people are, just work in 3D. Really, the design is the star of whatever you're making, and whether you draw it or you render it in 3D or you, I don't know, do an interpretive dance, as long as you communicate what you want to communicate and you do it effectively, the way in which you communicate this is actually, well, it really doesn't matter, like, at all. At least not to me and to the people with which I've worked so far, at least. Maybe some people are snobby about this, but in my experience, it's not the case. That's not the case. As long as you communicate what you want to do in a timely fashion and in a concise fashion. So, as you can see, I don't know, this might not have been something that was really communicated before, but that was actually a window, that sort of shape right there where where the cockpit was. So here we go with the second one. I didn't mention this before. I am now. I am actually colorizing these right now. Well, colorizing is a bit of a broad term, isn't it? I'm really just black and white, hue, making the experience a little bit more readable. As I mentioned earlier, just trying to give whomever is going to look at this a sense of what the design is, which parts are below, what other parts, something that might not be as easy a read um, later or earlier. So, to wrap this up, because this is the last one and I'm almost done here, this was my design. And again, what I was trying to communicate here through all of my ranting was the importance of trying something new, of revisiting ideas and just be open to new experiences. So what you see here is the final design of the three 50s inspired works. Thank you.